Before we start, I do want to inform everyone that we are going to invite the Virginia Tech students to practice Tuesday of next week. They play a huge role in making Lane Stadium what it is on game day. We really had a good time with that last year. Was really a great showing by our students to come down and watch practice and then hang out a little bit afterwards. Pete will get you all the details. As we get closer to finalizing the practice schedule, we usually, I set out a plan before spring ball starts, and then as we get into spring ball, we, as guys get beat up at one position or another, we tweak that plan moving forward. So as we get closer to finalizing that schedule for next Tuesday, Pete will be sure to get you all the details. We've got the quarterbacks for you all today. I have been pleased with all of them. They're making progress. They're doing a good job. Lots of work to be had in a lot of areas of our football team. But I like the way they're preparing and taking coaching. Coach Cornelson's done a fantastic job with them thus far. I know he'll continue to do that. And they're doing a great job listening and trying to go out there and compete. So I think you'll enjoy talking to them. Three really good kids that are battling hard for something that they desperately want. Questions?
Do you have in your mind a time frame in terms of do you want to start it by the end of spring, or does that not seem realistic?
Well, I don't ever set a time frame to make a decision in terms of, obviously some decisions you have deadlines you have to meet and you have to make a decision, but there's only one deadline, and that's by the time the first huddle trots out there in the first game. So whenever it happens, it'll happen. So I don't know when that'll be. We'll continue to evaluate it. We're not, same thing as last year. It was not a decision where we made a decision months and months ago and then let it draw all the way out to whenever it was we announced Gerard was starting last year. It'd be the same thing. When we know who that guy's going to be, then we'll let them know and everybody else know and kind of go forward.
Is it an equal competition up to that point, or do you give them certain status updates?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Is it equal competition up to that point, or you give them status updates like, oh, this guy's maybe a little bit ahead?
Yeah. We always give them feedback in terms of how they're playing, and we continue to manipulate the reps. They're still basically even. We're only operating 2 huddles right now. We're not going into. There's not a third huddle out there taking reps just because of our numbers. So, we give them constant feedback. I don't know that we continue to rank them for them. We just continue feedback on what they need to do individually to continue to improve, to give themselves a chance.
Do they have similar skill sets, or are they different styles of quarterbacks? What do you see from watching?
Oh, I think they have similar skill sets. Obviously they're not identical, but it's much like last year. I never felt like last year we were repping one offense with one quarterback and another offense with another quarterback. I feel the same way right now. We're kind of running our base stuff with those guys rolling in and out.
With AJ, you said you wanted a guy that fit well with your room, which was very important to you, whether it was him or somebody else. He didn't play at Nebraska. If you look at his numbers weren't good, really, in Iowa Western. What did you guys see in him from a quarterback standpoint that made you think you want to give him a shot?
Well, we've talked to several of his former coaches, some guys that are pretty well respected in the business that have had good players, and we felt like he had a skill set that fit what we could do if that's what we wanted to do offensively, and had some talent. So I didn't get too hung up in the numbers and all that sort of stuff. I never really have. But it was kind of through talking to him, through watching his film, through talking to people that have been around him on a consistent basis, we felt like it was a good fit.
Gerard talked about he wanted to come in and make a good impression and be a good leader, but he kind of had to wait a little bit until he established himself. What have you seen leadership-wise from AJ and even Hendon as new guys?
Well, they've done a great job in terms of working hard, serving as good examples of hard workers. I think there are some leadership qualities in there. I don't feel the need to push that role right now with any of those guys. I'm sure they all would like to do that, but to me, that's not what we're doing right now. Like, I'm not, we're trying to figure out who can play and who can execute on a consistent basis. Playing well always helps your leadership qualities. It's very difficult to lead and play poorly. As somebody that has played poorly many years ago, it's so, it's not a huge, they all have those qualities. I think they'll all do it in time. It's not been really a point of emphasis, I guess, in summation.
Coach, you said last year that predicted outcomes is one of the biggest things in how we kind of evaluate quarterbacks. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit and what that means?
Did he do what we asked him to do versus the look that that we got? In other words, when I'm watching the film and I know what he's being coached to do, regardless of the outcome of the play, meaning regardless of completion for 10 yards or whatever, did he do what we're asking him to do with his key reads based on what we saw on the film? So that doesn't always manifest itself, particularly in spring when you're going against the same sides time after time after time. It doesn't always manifest itself in a completion or a good drive or a touchdown. But as evaluating what they're doing, I think it's the best way to go to see if they're retaining and executing the information we're trying to give them.
Considering two of those three guys have never been in the system before, this is their first string. Are you pleased with how far along they've come? Is it about what you expected, considering their lack of experience?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, the more time you have in any subject, whether it's learning to speak another language or trying to play quarterback, it helps. And but I have been pleased with it. Yeah.
You've had a pretty unbelievable run of keeping quarterbacks healthy. I think it's been listen. Since 2008, you haven't had a starting quarterback miss a game.
There goes that.
Are you really that superstitious about this? Come on. Andy Dalton missed 2 games in 2008. That's the last time he had a starting quarterback miss a game. What's behind that? Is it the style of play?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Obviously, it's.
I have no clue. I don't know.
Do you think the fast pace has something to do with it? The fact you get ball out of their hands quickly, or?
I really don't know. I'm not being a snarky jerk. I really don't know. I mean, that's like the announcer saying he hasn't missed a free throw in 3 weeks. I mean, I really don't know why, but I'm going to cross my fingers that nothing else happens.
Last of all, you surprised us anyway when you said that Josh Jackson had come along so quickly that he was a factor in the competition. Obviously, he ended up not playing. What have you seen in terms of development from that day to here, specifically with Josh? Like, what has he gotten better at? What's impressed you?
Well, he's working consistently on some things, some minor things mechanically to help him deliver the ball a little bit quicker. He's continued to improve that part of it. He has a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. I think that's improved. And he's no longer just the wide-eyed freshman in there. So I mean, he's made some steps along the way from a technique standpoint and from an execution standpoint.
You said a couple of weeks ago that you were more worried about the supporting cast than the quarterbacks. So does that still hold true?
Yes.
when you talk about that, check technique stuff, you're a quarterback guy. Do you get hands-on with that, or is that for Brad at this point?
Oh, Brad and I talk about it, I mean, almost daily. Brad and I have a pretty good relationship, so, during the time they're working on that, usually I'm at special teams or at something else, so I'm not the one instructing on it, but I will talk to them about it occasionally. But I'm very careful to make sure that it's a clear message. I don't want it to be, if I phrased it differently, I don't want it to be misinterpreted. So Brad coaches them and does a great job with it, but we have discussions about what we're doing and what we need to work on.
Hendon is kind of the newest of the new guys in the room, being an early enrollee. I was at his last high school basketball game about a week before he enrolled.
Yeah.
And where is he in terms of what you thought how quickly he would develop, and what's been your experience with other early enrollees at that position?
My experience with other early enrollees, we had, that I can recall off the top of my head, we had one at TCU, but he didn't have to, he wasn't entrenched in a battle right from the start. Andy was the incumbent. And then we, last year with Josh coming in at midterm, and he was in a similar situation as Hendon this year, in terms of coming in and having a chance to go compete for the job. I've been pleased with his progress. I think he has got a lot of talent. He's a pleasure to be around. It's important to him. It is a big jump, though. It was a big jump for Josh in the.
It's a bigger jump physically or mentally, do you think?
Well, it's a little bit of both, but it's certainly mentally a little bit different game. But it doesn't mean that it's kind of like putting them both together. It's not like the guys don't know what the plays are and what they're supposed to do. It just happens quick, and processing all that information. He has that ability, and he will be able to do it as he continues to get reps.
You share who's working right now, first team offensive line, the final cross. Has there been, on that right side really is the question, I guess, has there been any change?
Tyrell has worked at right tackle. We've moved those guys around a little bit at right guard. Faf has worked in there. Chung has worked in there. There may be another guy or two, but those are the two main guys that have worked in at right guard.
Are you happy with the progress they're making in that front five?
With all of them, or just at right guard?
Particularly right guard, with the whole unit coming together.
Oh, I think they've made some good progress. I think we always get better, but they've continued to improve. I like where they're going.
One more for Coach.
Any lingering questions as you are at this point in the spring? Is there anything in particular that we're wishing was further along, or is keeping you up at night?
Yeah, we've still got some depth things that they're not going to be fixed in the next 2 weeks. And I've got to come to grips with that, which is hard for me sometimes. But that's the truth. We're going to rely on some young players, and that's not what it's not that you don't want young guys to play, you do, but to have them, we're going to rely on them to play. So, but as far as taking that out of the equation, there's a lot of things that we can continue to work on. We're going to work on some crossover and special teams. We're going to continue to work on a little bit of situational work, a little bit of early down work, to see if we can continue to get better the next 2 weeks.